Good morning, good afternoon, wherever it is you're watching from. G'day, welcome back. Day number 5. We're up to day number 5. As you know, hopefully you've been following along. 30 days. I'm going to turn up every day for 30 days and talk to you about composition. Now, it's not so much 30 days, 30 techniques because day 5. So I've had 4 days, and I think I've already shared about 20 different composition tools and techniques, and that's cool. That's what I want. I want to turn up. I want to over deliver. I want you to get as much as you can out of this, and for your time, because I appreciate your time. Today, we're going to be talking about space in photos. So active space, negative space, positive space, all that sort of thing. What it is, why we do it, how we do it, and it kind of flows a little bit from what we did yesterday, which was the rule of thirds. We talked about space a little bit, but I want to go a little bit deeper. And if you've got any questions, I want to be able to answer your questions as well. So this was what we covered yesterday, rule of thirds. So basically, just to recap and go into it really quickly, rule of thirds is basically you turn on the grids or the grid lines on your camera, and what you do is you position your main visual anchor, your main focal point, your main element, the hero of your photo, what it's all about, what you want people to see first. You put that on one of those lines, horizontal, vertical, because that then places it off center. Now, off center means that it's not smack bang in the middle, because it's when it's smack bang in the middle. And I talked about this quickly yesterday, was that you have the fovea in the middle of your eye, which is the highest resolution where you look, and then your peripheral is where you lose resolution. So if you have something smack bang in the center, your eye goes there, fixates on it, and then doesn't move anywhere. It's not encouraged to go anywhere. And by placing it off center, you are creating that space that we're going to talk about. So you kind of go there, and then you're encouraged to explore and go further into the photo. And that's where it starts to get really exciting. So this is what we're talking about here, is a couple of the techniques out of the new Stronger Photo Composition course that I have. It's a 4-step system. I just finished recording a quick win video, which is basically show you how to get the most out of 100 plus compositional techniques and tools in under an hour. And that includes 3 different project-based exercises. So that's really cool. So that's why I'm kind of pumped to get in here, because I've just been talking about it on video. So, g'day Sally. Good morning to you too. Fantastic. Thanks for joining. Okay, so rule of thirds is one way. Other way is off center. So basically just have something off center. And we talked about yesterday, I'll bring this up again from yesterday. This one here, placing the main element on one of those intersecting points, because then that is off center both horizontally and vertically. The benefit of that, like I said, your eye goes there, and then you've got plenty of room to move below it or above it. You've got plenty of room to move to the other side. When you have a horizon, if you have the horizon closer to the top of the frame, most of the content is the bottom of the frame. Likewise, if you want the stories to be all about the sky, then have the horizon down lower. So go check out that video from yesterday for a bit more detail about that. But basically, it was all about placing things off center. And the reason we do that is that it either creates harmony and balance, because you might have something that's really large in one side of the frame, and then over on the other side, you might have a combination of smaller items, which then create balance. And if you have enough space in between, then it's kind of balanced. If you have things just kind of all mismatched together and there's no space in there, then that can, just become a dog's breakfast. And the viewer doesn't know what you're trying to communicate to them. It doesn't know what you want them to see. Now, here's an example here. This was actually a photo that I took on my very first in-person workshop down at Geelong Waterfront, and there was different opportunities there for this photo because you can walk all along. And here I tried to incorporate a bit of a leading line, but I wanted to have some space around the boat as well, because if I cropped it and I went more like that, can you feel visual tension there? Because that's what I'm doing by bringing it in closer to the edge. It doesn't have that room to breathe. It doesn't have, like, it's the same photo, it's the same content. It still has the lines. It has, I haven't cropped. So if I go down, I haven't awkwardly cropped the top of the mast and the light there. And but it still feels very different, doesn't it? Whereas if I do it like that and I have a bit of room around it, that space creates kind of breathing, balance. And that's what I talk about with the balance. Balance doesn't necessarily need to be symmetrical, where you have one element on one side and then something that equal visual weight on the other side. It just needs to have just harmony. nice aesthetics is what we're going for here. So that's what we call positive space, is all that space that is around that there. Now I had who was it? Will shared in the community yesterday. I haven't got his permission, so I won't share it. But Will shared an awesome photo yesterday in the community, and basically it's a square photo. I'll try and explain to you. It was a square photo, and down the bottom of the frame, and we talked about this yesterday or the day before. We talked about the Barak diagonal, which basically means that your vision goes from the bottom left to the top right. And if you can imagine this photo, he has some stairs leading down to the water, and these stairs lead down across the bottom, and then you have a little bit of stairs going the opposite way, so it's like a zigzag, to a little pontoon or pier area where you've got two people fishing, and they've got their rods pointing out into the water. And the water takes up 90% of the photo. It does. So you've just got this, so it's very simplistic, it's a very clean photo. Basically, you've just got that little leading a little zigzag, and then the people there, and you've got all that active space. So heaps of room, and it's just a great example. All right, what else did I want to show you here? I have more photos here of space. Okay, this is straight out of the course. This just explains. Negative space is the space around a subject. Positive space is the actual main visual anchor. And also other focal points. So the positive space is all the points of interest, all the content that's in the frame. Negative space is the background, or what we call the ground. So throw another one at you. So the main subject is the figure, and then you have the ground. Just from I think it's Gestalt design theory, you have the figure and the ground. The figure is the positive space. So it's the thing that kind of grabs your attention. It's the main focal point. And then you have that negative space. Now, the negative space, like I said, try and simplify it. Don't clutter it like here. It's just, this was using the Struman Optics cinematic macro lens, and it's a beautiful lens. You can shoot something up to 7 centimeters away in focus. Beyond that, it's just a beautiful, creamy blur, and a real blur, not an artificial computational blur, although that is getting much better. But you can see there, by having that creamy background, it provides that contrast and space. Like if that background, you could see all the textures of all those fronds behind there. Yes, we've got some negative space, but it's not as aesthetically pleasing. It's not as smooth. And you see a lot of photos where they'll have the model up against a wall or a doorway or something like that, or street photography where you set up a scene and you wait for that decisive moment of somebody walking into the scene to interact with the environment, where you have a flat, distraction-free, consistent, muted colours or vibrant colours. You might be going for a strong contrast, but by simplifying the background, then it creates that negative space is just it's much more aesthetically pleasing instead of a busy one. Okay, active space. So this is an interesting one, because I love visual tension in photos, because and that's one of the things people say, oh, I don't want to learn about compositional techniques because we're supposed to break the rules. You'll hear that. You'll hear people say that all the time, breaking the rules, and don't get hung up on the rule of thirds. And I totally agree. But where I find it interesting is that I'm so guilty of this, is that I break the rules and think, I'm I've got crazy. But quite often these rules that I'm breaking just means that I'm using a different rule. So here, instead of active space, and I've got plenty of room for that boat to move into, that's what active space is, whereas opposed to the sailboat on the other side where the space is behind them, it creates visual tension. And that's another compositional technique. And design is tension, having visual tension. And you can see there, yes, you can see where the boat's been, or below that, you can see where the jogger has been. So it adds that visual tension, like I showed you before with the boat and crop right up against the edge there. You kind of, it makes you feel a bit claustrophobic and a bit crammed. And so it actually has a physiological reaction to it, which is pretty extraordinary when you think about it. So here, this active space, having that space in front of it is fantastic. All right, what else did I want to show you? This one here, I've got a frog. So this frog here, you can see there, I tried to simplify the scene. I got down lower, and by getting down lower, I could actually remove the rocks on the edge of the water behind the frog and just simplify the scene. What else do I have here? And here's another example. I think I shared this the other day. Here's another example. There's a duck, and again, it's a little bit busy, the background, but because I've blurred the background, and this wasn't a special lens or portrait mode, this was just that I got in nice and close, tapped the screen on the duck, and then that, because the background is so far away, the background became blurred. And you can see there, I've got plenty of space around. And yeah, fantastic. I think that's about it. I'll just have a quick look at my notes on the actual course itself, see if there's anything there that I wanted to add. I think that was pretty much it. Yeah, fantastic. So this is out of step number 2 out of the 4-step system, if you recall. And I'm going to bang on about this every day because it's like an epiphany. It was like when I discovered that I could break all these 100+ techniques and tools into 4 groups and then have that like a checklist. It just made it so much easier, and that's why I'm here every day, to help you kind of simplify it. So step number 1 is position yourself and the camera. Position, angle, tilt, height is a big one, and then distance back and forth. Number 2 is positioning the main subject, and that's what we're talking about here. Position the main subject off center. Step number 3 is other elements in the scene and how that all interacts. We talked about here, because we're talking about space, if I have a lot of visual elements in the background, then the space kind of gets lost. Now that's different to balance. Balance is different. You can still create balance without the space using continuity and similarity and so many more things that I can't wait to geek out and share with you. But yeah, so there we go. I think we'll wrap it up there. Tomorrow, I don't actually have a plan for tomorrow yet. I'm just picking one of my techniques and kind of grouping them, like off-center, rule of thirds, 1/3, 2/3. It's kind of 3, but I put them all together in one. So if you're watching the replay, or Sally, if you've got something that you want me to cover today, or tomorrow, or the next day, or whatever, and kind of fast track that and bring that to you sooner, please, in the comments. And down in the description below, I have the link there that you can just click on and have a look at the playlist and have a look at all the videos there. So thanks. Under 15 minutes, sweet. That's my goal. Bite-sized content is what I want.